This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last class, we started with inheritance. So what is inheritance? Creating a new class from existing class. And the keyword what we use for inheritance is extends. And one more very important point, Java does not support multiple inheritance. Means in Java, a class can extend only one class. And we have discussed about inheritance is a relationship. And next one, polymorphism. So where we discussed about overloading and overriding. So overloading means method name is same but the signature is different. Signature means the arguments what you pass to the method is different. Coming to overriding, method name is same and signature is also same, and it is only for subclasses. So whatever the method we write in base class, if we write same method as it is in subclass with same signature, then we call overridden method. Today let us move to the next one, how to go with constructors in inheritance. So today we will be discussing how to use these constructors in inheritance, final keyword, inner classes, access modifiers, and encapsulation. All small topics today. Now let us understand how to use these constructors in inheritance. So what is a constructor? It is a method whose name is same as the class name. What is a constructor? It is a method whose name is same as what? The class name. Mainly used to initialize the object. Now, let us understand this directly with a program. The third formula, inheritance demo 3. Now, let us open this demo 2 program. Yesterday what we have written in my pack 1. Copy this demo 2 code. Copy this. And come to my pack 2. Right click on my pack 2 and say new class inheritance demo 3. Why we are creating in my pack 2? Once you create a class in a package, we cannot create same class in the same package. That's the reason we are creating this demo 3 in my pack 2. Then under my pack 2, paste the code. The code what you copied from inheritance demo 2, you paste it. So change the class name to demo 3. Here we are going to discuss about what? How to use constructors in inheritance. Constructors in inheritance. Now, here we are having a class base with two data members ij. Now we want to give value to this data members using a constructor. So what we should do? We have to replace this input method with what? Class name, like this base. So what is a constructor? It's a method whose name is same as class name. Then same display method. Coming to derived extends base with a data member key, and here we want to use constructor. So here instead of input, we go with the method name derived, same as the class name. In this constructor, we are giving value to k and same display method. Coming to main method, we are creating object of base. Since base class constructor is taking two arguments, let us pass the arguments here 10, 20. So this 10, 20 will come and store into these ij arguments which are given to the data members. And calling input is not required because we are giving value using constructor. Now when you say b.display, we get 10, 20, no issues. Coming to derived equal to new derived. Since derived class constructor is taking an argument, let us pass the value of argument as 50. I'm passing argument as what? 50. So this 50 will come and store into this key argument which is given to this data member k. Then input is not required. Then we'll say d.display. Now what do you think the output will be? What is the value of ijk will be? Observe here, very important one. We are getting, see, error. In line number 20, under derived, we are getting error. So some people will give the answer as 0050, which is wrong, because the output of this code is what here? Error. So understanding this error is the main concept of constructors in inheritance. See here, understand carefully. Whenever we are creating derived class object, this 50 will come and store into K, which we are giving to the data member. Now, whenever you take in Java, the first statement added to every constructor, is super. This line of code is added implicitly. Invokes base class default constructor. Even we are writing this statement or not writing, this will get added automatically, which is going to invoke what? Base class default constructor. If you go to base class, do you have any default constructor here? No. Since there is already a parameterized constructor, default constructor will not be created here. Since there is no default constructor here, that's the reason we are getting error. That's the reason I suggested in constructors that whenever a class contains parameterized constructor, it is suggested to create a default constructor in your class. Whenever a class contains parameterized constructor, it is always suggested to create a default constructor in the class, because whenever we create a constructor, the first statement added to every constructor is super, which is going to search for default constructor in the base class. Now see, the error has gone. Now you can see the result as 0050. See, when we run, we get see 0050. So what is the important point here? The important point, super is the first statement added to every constructor implicitly, which invokes the base class default constructor. Which invokes what? Base class default constructor. Right? Now, see the output, what we get? See at 0050. Now, the objective is we want to call this parameterized constructor. I don't want to go to default constructor. We want to call parameterized constructor. Then how to call that one is using same super and pass the values. So this we have to call explicitly. Invokes base class parameterized constructor. Now the result will be, so when you say derived equal to new derived of 50, 50 goes to K, super 30, 40, 30, 40 goes to this Ij, which are given to the data members. Now K value will be 50. Now the result will be 30, 40, 50. So when you run, we get the result as 30, 40, 50. So what is the next point? To call parameterized constructor, of base class from derived class constructor, call it explicitly. Call it what? Explicitly. One more important point. In the case of display method, if I take this super.display out, then first we will print K value, after that super.display, no issues. First it's going to print K value, after that Ij value. Similar way, if I try to use this super, in the case of constructor, if I use this super, after this dot K, then see we are getting error. See the message? Constructor call must be first statement. So in the case of ordinary methods, super can be anywhere, but in the case of constructors, super must be first statement. In the case of constructors, super must be first statement. So what is the next important rule here? Call to super must be first statement in constructors. Right? Now, one more last point. If I create one more object of derived t1 equal to new derived of 80, means k value will be 80. K will be 80. Now if I print d1 dot display, see the output what we are getting. For ij, d object for ij is 3040. For d1 also ij is 3040. For d1 also ij is what? 3040. So the output will be I is 30, j is 40, and k will be 80. K will be what? 80. So how many derived class objects you create, the value of ij will be always 3040. So this is hard coded. How to avoid hard coding? By sending the data in the form of arguments. So the suggested way of creating constructor is you create a constructor with 3 arguments. You create a constructor with 3 arguments. Okay, you go with a constructor with 3 arguments. Then first statement you write super of I comma j. Then this dot k equal to k. So here you can pass the arguments now. 60, 70, 80. Now the result will be 60, 70, 80. So here we get the result 60, 70, 80. So what is the main important points? We are discussing about how to go with constructors. So what is constructor? It's a method whose name is same as class name. So the very important point is whenever we create a derived class constructor, the first statement added to every constructor is super. This line of code will get added automatically, which is going to search for default constructor in the class. That's the reason if a class contains parameterized constructor, always we have to create a default constructor. So the first statement added to every constructor is super. Then if I want to call parameterized constructor, if I want to call this parameterized constructor from derived class constructor, we have to call it explicitly like this, super 3040, which invokes this parameterized constructor. And one more important point, super must be first statement. We cannot use super wherever you want. This super must be first statement in constructors. Right? So these are the major important points here. Clear everyone? Any questions? No. Let us move to the next concept here. Final keyword. Final keyword can be used for data members, or you can say final keyword can be used for the following, that is variables. So it can be your data members or it can be your local variables, methods and classes. So we can use final keyword at 3 locations: variables, methods and classes. If we go with final variable, it is a constant. It is a constant, means the value of the variable cannot be modified. we cannot change the value of the variable. Like if you say final int max equal to 100, if you are trying to change max value to some 500, goes with error. So once you make a variable as final, we cannot change the value of that variable. Like one more example, double pi. What's the value of pi? It's always 3.14. So when you are going with constant variables, you have to make it as final. The next one, final method. Final method. It cannot be overridden. We cannot override final methods. Like example, if you take a class base with a method ppp with some code inside, if you take a class derived extends base, derived extends base, and we are overriding the method here. We are overriding the method. Now, if you make this base class method as final, if you make the base class method as final, we cannot override the method. When you are trying to override, it goes with error. So final methods cannot be overridden. Final class. Final class. It cannot be subclassed. No subclasses. Like example, final class base. Then if you are creating a class derived extends base, goes with what? Error. So once you make a class as final, we cannot create subclasses. In Java, we are having some predefined final classes. In Java, we are having some predefined final classes. They are system, string, math, byte, short, character, integer, long, float, double, boolean. So for every primitive data type, there is a corresponding class. We call them with a special name, wrapper classes. So next week we discuss more on these wrapper classes. So all these are final classes. So you have to remember this minimum list, because during your exams or interviews, they'll ask you the question, what is the output? What is output? So if you take a class, some sample, extends double. Extends double. Immediately we have to say error. Because double is what? Final class. It's a final class. We cannot create subclasses. For all these things, we cannot create subclasses. So when we use final keyword for variable, it's like a constant. For method, we cannot override. For class, no subclasses. Clear about final keyword, all of you? No. The next one, inner classes. A class within a class is called as inner class. Like example, if you go with a class outer, inside the class outer, if you are creating one more class inner, this we call inner class. Let us understand with an example code. Inner demo. Right click on project and say new class inner demo. Here we are taking a class outer with a data member x with a value 100. We are taking a class inner. In this, we are going with a method some PPP. In this PPP method, we want to just print the value of x here. So I want to invoke this PPP method of inner class. That's the main objective. So whenever you want to access the members of class, we have to create object of the class. So how to create object of inner class? That's the main point over here. So the syntax of creating object of inner class is, we have to say like this: outer dot inner object equal to new outer dot new inner. First we have to create object of outer. Using this object only we can create inner object. So what is the syntax of creating inner object? Outer dot inner object equal to new outer dot new inner. Now by using this inner object, we can invoke the PPP method. Now see, when we run, we get the result here. So this line is important for us now. So more about inner classes we'll discuss again later. Now entering into the major part of today's class, this is the major concept, that is access modifiers. This is the major topic today, access modifiers. In Java, we are having totally 4 access modifiers. They are private, default. Default means no need to specify. Protected and public. We are having even non-access modifiers. Non-access modifiers are like static, final, abstract, synchronized, transient, like this. So static final we have discussed, abstract we'll discuss in the next class, synchronized we discuss in multi-threading, transient in IO package. Now one important statement, only final modifier is allowed for local variables. Out of all these modifiers, only which modifier is allowed for local variable? Only final is allowed for local variable. Remaining all are not allowed for local variable. Now, let us start off these 4 access modifiers now. Private. A class cannot be private. We cannot use private keyword for a class. Like example, if we say private class, my class, goes with error. We cannot use private keyword for a class. Then where we can use private keyword? Private keyword can be used for data members, methods, and inner classes. We can use private keyword for data members, methods, and inner classes. Then, what is the use of private keyword is, private members are accessible only within the same class. Where private members are accessible, they are accessible where? Only within the same class. Like example, if you create a class A with a private member, N. Now we are having a method, some PPP. Inside PPP, we are giving N equal to 10. It's valid only because we are in the same class. If you are creating a class B, In this B class, we are going with the method QQQ. In this method, we are creating object of A class. Now using this object A, if you are trying to give value to n, this is error. Because once you make a variable as private, we can access only within class. Outside, even with object, we cannot access. So it say n is not visible because of private. Clear this private keyword? Any questions? Clear all of you?
Yes, Raj.
Right? Yeah. Next one. Default. A class can be default. Then accessible only within the same package. Where they are accessible only within the same package. Now, like example, we are having a package, my pack1, with a class A, with a data member n. This is default specifier. So if you are not mentioning anything, it is default. Now, if you are having a method ppp, in that we are giving n value. So this is valid only because we are in the same class. Now if you create one more class B in the same package you are, and here you are going with the method QQQ. In this method, we are creating object of A class, and using this object you are giving value to n. This is valid only because you are in the same package only. You are in the same package. Now if you are creating a one more package my pack2, in this we are going with a class C. In class C, we are going with a method RRR. In this method, we are creating object of A class. So when you are creating object of A class, since A class belongs to my pack1, we have to import. What we should write here? Import my pack1.a. Right? And whenever you want to use a class of one package into another, the class must be public. So here the class must be what? Public. Then only we can create object of A class. Now using this object, if I try to give value to n, this will go with error. So n is not visible because of what? Default. So when you make a member as default, we can access only within same package. Outside we cannot access even with object also. So default members are accessible where? Only within same package. Next one, protected. Next one, protected. A class cannot be protected. Like example, if you are saying protected class, my class goes with error. where we can use protected. Protected keyword can be used for data members, methods, and inner classes. Then what is the use of protected? Protected members are accessible within the same package and subclass of another package. Protected members are accessible where within the same package plus even subclass of another package. Like example, if we take the same example, same, we are having package my pack1 with class A, and here let us make it as protected member. So protected is used within the same class, we can access here even in another class of same package, no issues. So here we are having my pack2 and we are trying to create object of A class and accessing the member. Since C is non-subclass, this also goes with error because of what? Protected. But if you are creating one more class D, extends A. D is a subclass of A now. D is a subclass of A, and in this we are going with a method xxx. In this method, we are trying to give value to n here. This is valid only. Because once you make a member as protected, n is protected, this protected member can be used within the same package and even subclass of another package. Since D is a subclass of A, I can use this protected in subclass, no issues. Coming to the next one, public. Public. A class can be public. Accessible everywhere, no restrictions. Accessible everywhere. Like, wearing some more important points means accessible everywhere means within same class, within same package, another package, subclass, non-subclass, anything it can access. And wearing some important points in public, that is, if the class is public, then the name of the source code file should be same as the class name. If you take a class, my class, and if it is public, then the file name should also be what? myclass.java only. Okay. Then one more important point. In a source code file, we can have only one public class. In a source code file, we can have what? Only one public class, like this. If you are having class A, public class A, then what should be the file name? Compulsory a.java. a.java. If you create one more public class B, then what should be the file name? So if you save it as b.java, it will say A is public, save as a.java. If you say a.java, it will say B is public, save as b.java. So having multiple public classes in one source code file is what? Error. It goes with error. Right? So what is the summary? This summary you should remember. When we go with private, accessible only within the same class. Default, no need to specify. Accessible only within the same package. Protected, accessible within the same package plus subclass of another package. subclass of another package. Then public accessible everywhere, no restrictions. Okay, clear all of you about access modifiers? Any questions? No. Let us move to the next one, the last one, encapsulation. Let me define this. So the process of binding means joining, the process of binding the data members and methods together into a container called class. So where we keep data members and methods inside a class, and by providing security to data is called as encapsulation. Okay, just security word is more important here. Like example, if you take a class customer with a data member age. Now to access age outside, we create object customer c equal to new customer. Now we want to give value to age, c dot age. We are giving something like 20. So how we are giving value to age? Using object. Now if I go with a method, if I take a method like set age, which takes a as argument, then we'll say age equal to a. Now we can even give value to age using what? C dot set age, and we pass 30. So this 30 will come and store into this a variable where I am giving that value to age here. Now in this piece of code, how many ways we are using to give value to age data member? 2 ways, by directly accessing it and using set age method. Now if I make this age as private, this will go with what? Error, right? We cannot access age directly outside. So we have to call set age method to give value to age data member. So here we are using only one way to give value to age data member. So making the data member as private, giving the value to data member using methods, this type of coding only we call encapsulation, where we get security to data. How security is coming because of private? Let us understand. If I remove private, we can access age directly. So when you are able to access age directly, I can even store a value -20. So this -20 can be stored in age. Means this age data member is not secured, not protected to store valid data. How to give protection? By using private. So when you say private, now the only way to give value to age is method. And the advantage of method is the value what you pass to this a argument, we can check here. If a greater than or equal to 18 and if that a less than or equal to 60, then only we give that a value to age, else we'll go with the message invalid age. Now this age data member is now protected to store only valid data. So how to go achieve encapsulation? Go with the variable should be private and we have to give value to this data members only using method. Such type of coding only encapsulation. So you can say a class is fully encapsulated when all data members are private. Encapsulated means secured. right? A simple concept, remember this. Now that's about for today's. And coming to assignment, Java OOP assignment, now we can do question 7. Question 7 is based on inheritance and polymorphism. And we can even make use of constructors in inheritance. So try to complete this question 7 from the assignment. Okay, so any questions, anyone? Right, please practice this. So next class will be on Monday, where we'll go with the remaining part of object oriented. So we'll discuss the remaining part like abstract classes and interfaces. So with that, we complete our object oriented in the next class. Right? Yeah. Thank you all and happy weekend.